News in the shooting death of Trayford Pellerin by Lafayette Police. Protesters protesting his death are now coming face to face with Lafayette Police. That dramatic scene playing out just a few blocks away from the Moss Street substation. Our Chris Welty is there live with what's going on right now. Hey, Chris.
Hey Jim, a very tense situation out here on Moss Street and Pine. We're just blocks away from the police substation here on Moss Street, not too far from Northside High, and if you're familiar with where Pizza Village is. Now, right here, if we take a look, you have protesters with their hands up, chanting, some were chanting earlier, Black Lives Matter. And then if we pan over this way, you see the Lafayette PD mounted patrol, and behind Lafayette PD is the Sheriff's Office SWAT team in riot gear. Now, we were told that the protesters were told they have 10 minutes to disperse and to clear the street, and if they don't clear, then they will be arrested, no questions asked. As I said, when we first arrived here, the protesters were much louder. Now they have quieted down, and they're very much so standing their ground here on Moss Street. Now, a lot of people as well, they're parked in the street, and some cars are turning around, so if you are trying to come to this area, definitely avoid it by all means. But when we were walking, we passed the police substation, and they had a lot of officers behind the closed gate, very well-lit parking spot, and they're just standing by, ready to guard their police substation as well. But you can see that there's signs out here that are made that say Trayford Pellerin should still be alive, and other people wearing Black Lives Matter masks, holding up signs that say Make America Not Racist for the first time. And let's see, now, and one of the organizers right here said that they're about to shoot rubber bullets at them if they don't disperse peacefully. Now, it does look that there is another man out here that is trying to tell people, look, clear this road, clear this scene, saying that you need to open the road back up, but he just said that this is counterproductive to this situation. I can hear you, Jim.
Is there a leader out there? You had mentioned that there are a few different people trying to tell the protesters different things. Is there any one person out there who seems to be in control, if you will?
There is one man on a megaphone. I haven't seen him around at other protests before. And then there was a different man that did just walk up that was saying, look, clear the streets. This isn't worth it to get arrested. But police are very much so ready to move in here on Moss Street. And let me see if, Mac, if we can walk a little bit over this way, you can see that you do have police cars parked into the Chevron lot right here. Police also standing by with their hard hats as well. And the protesters are now saying hands up. But a lot of the side streets off of Moss Street are packed as well, because a lot of the protesters, they park there walking over here to Moss Street, and they're blocking the road and blocking down, which would go about maybe another block or two down, and that's the police substation here on Moss Street. But look, Jim, I'm going to go ahead and toss it back to you.
Okay, Chris, we'll stay with those pictures for a little bit. I know you're probably trying to gather some information out there, so Chris, we'll check back in with you in just a little bit. But again, just to recap everybody, those protesters have made their way off the Evangeline Thruway a few blocks away over toward the Moss Street substation. We do want to take those live images again if we can, as soon as we can there. I see that up there now. The protesters really coming face to face right now with police over the shooting death of Trayford Pellerin last night. Chris is back. I see him there. Chris, you could step out if you have to try to find someone to talk to, perhaps. But the protesters have been given about...
Jim.
Yeah, Chris.
I do want to just mention that I did hear from a source that it's about the 5-minute warning, and that if these protesters don't disperse, then they will release tear gas to try and get this crowd under control.
Okay, yeah, they were given about a 10-minute warning, maybe about 15 minutes ago now, so police, it seems, are trying to give them a little time to disperse. Again, we've been seeing a few different people out there telling the protesters, or the protesters taking it on themselves to stay out there, but we have seen some people telling them to disperse, to get out of the way. This is not what they wanted, but others are adamant they want to make their voices heard. So much emotion in this city right now over the death of Trayford Pellerin, who was shot and killed last night near a convenience store on the Evangeline Thruway. Police were called to that convenience store for reports of a disturbance is all that they've said. They have said that he was armed with a knife and that police were trying to apprehend him at the time when he walked away. In the video that's been shared online from a witness, you could see him walking away from police trying to intervene, walking up behind him. Witnesses and police are saying that he was repeatedly tased and that did not work. And when he went to a convenience store, another convenience store nearby, right near the entrance, is when police say they opened fire because there were safety concerns for people inside. We're following Chris there. Again, these tense moments playing out right now, not far away from the Moss Street substation, where protesters have come face to face right now with police. We know Lafayette Police, their mounted patrol is there on horseback. We see the sheriff's deputies are also there in riot gear as well. Several different agencies out there trying to keep the calm and keep everyone calm and peaceful out there. The NAACP earlier was weighing in because these protesters, hundreds, were blocking the Evangeline Thruway where I-49 comes into Lafayette. It's not far from the scene where Trayford Pellerin was shot and killed last night, and hundreds of people blocked the Evangeline Thruway. Traffic was backed up onto I-49. Police tried to shut down the roadway out there, but now it seems as darkness has fallen on Lafayette, the protesters have been on the move. They have made their way blocks away over toward the Moss Street substation, and this is where police are really intervening for the first time today. They're out there on their mounted patrol units are out there on horseback, and as you can see behind Chris Welty right there, sheriff's deputies are in riot gear. Protesters have been given a 10-minute warning. At first it was about 15 minutes ago. They've been given a warning to disperse or be arrested. Chris is reporting that they're also being threatened with tear gas out there to get out, to disperse, to go home. Lafayette Police trying to keep the calm in the city tonight. I want to go back out to Chris, if you can hear me. Chris, any more warnings from police and deputies? What are they saying?
Hey, Jim, so we did notice that there was a bit of a shift. So there's officers or sheriff deputies that have the tear gas. They moved to the front line right behind the mounted patrol, and the protesters, they did back up a good bit, maybe about the length of a driveway or so, but they are still blocking the road. It has quieted down quite a bit. The protesters, some are having their hands up in the air, others say don't shoot. We do see Black Lives Matter posters. We do see a few protesters that are still standing by, and let's see if we can take a look over this way, Mac. You can see that the mounted patrol, they're starting to move back, and a few of the protesters, they are starting to inch a little bit closer again, but we're not sure why the mounted patrol decided to move back. It might be because they are about to release tear gas. We were told about 3 minutes ago that they would release tear gas if these protesters did not move and disperse from the street. We decided we are off to the side. We're in a grassy area behind where the police are. So when they do disperse, if they do disperse any tear gas, we're sort of out of that area as well. But the protesters, they are firmly standing their ground still and holding Black Lives Matter. I know that you were telling me or asking me earlier, Jim, if I see any official leaders. I don't see any official leaders from the NAACP out here, or any official city leaders as well. But it does appear that there is, they did just fire a flare as a warning, and that must be the tear gas. We do see smoke, and we see the crowds running. Mac, if we can come over this way a little bit, where we're still safe, but we can get a better picture. You can see some of the protesters are still staying here in the street, but the majority of them have dispersed, but others are still walking with their hands up, and others are sort of just dodging where the tear gas canisters are landing. So far, the police, they have not moved in to try and make any arrests. They're very much so just standing back at this point. But some of that tear gas is starting to waft over our way, and police right now, they are slowly starting to move in.
I saw one deputy there kicking a tear gas canister. I'm not sure if it was just a misfire or if it came back their way, but yeah, these are remarkable images, everybody, that we're watching unfold right now, not too far away from the Moss Street substation, where Lafayette Police and Sheriff's deputies are trying to clear the area of protesters who have been out here all day, all afternoon today, protesting the shooting death of Trayford Pellerin at the hands of Lafayette Police last night. We seemed about just 2 minutes ago, just saw some what appeared to be canisters fired. I'm not sure, Chris, how your senses are doing out there right now, if it is in fact tear gas, but protesters were given a warning about 15 minutes ago that they needed to leave or be arrested. And then just a few minutes ago, they were also told that there would be tear gas fired. So we did see some sort of a flare fired. I'm not sure if it was in fact tear gas. Chris?
I don't know if you can see, they have arrested one protester. I don't know if you can see, Jim, they do have one protester that is handcuffed. And police are starting to move in down Wall Street, going closer to the police substation. Look, Mac, if we can follow this shot right here, it looks like Louisiana State Police is out here as well as the Sheriff's Office and Lafayette PD Mounted Patrol. They moved back after they did fire some of those canisters. But actually, look, this is an incredible image right here. You can see that the horses have some type of protective shield over their face as well. And the police on the Mounted Patrol, they do have their tear gas mask on right now. And they are slowly starting to move in as well. And we do hear a lot of cars taking off back down the road. A lot of people are starting to clear out, but there's still a good amount of protesters out here. A lot of people did park in the old Northgate Mall parking lot, and they just packed the streets.
Have
Mac,
people started dispersing,
walk a little bit over
Chris?
this way.
Right now we're seeing mostly police from your vantage point right there. Are the protesters moving back?
And Jim, the protesters are moving back, and we did hear just a round of fire from a few blocks over. I'm not sure if that is related to this situation or not, but we'll try and find out. But we did hear a round of pops just a minute ago. But as far as the protesters, they still do have a few straggling out here, but a good majority of them have left. A few of them are being handcuffed and detained. It looks like instead of using the traditional handcuffs, they're using zip ties. And let's see if we can zoom in maybe a little bit and get you a shot of that. But
this is a second person, that Chris, yeah?
Somebody has their hands behind their back. This is at least the third that we've seen detained by police out here. They do have a white van. I'm not sure if they're loading them up into there, but they do have more marked units a little bit further down going towards Willow. And
we still hear protesters, Chris. They're still out there. They're still chanting.
Yeah, there's still protesters. A lot of them have moved from the road. And let's see, they're telling this lady that she needs to move. She's saying, that's my brother who was arrested. Not sure what's going to happen right here. But Mac, if we could take a little walk down this way, and we can see here in the parking lot at the Chevron that a lot of the people that were out here on the street, they have since moved, and now they're hanging out here in the parking lot, very quiet. And then if we pan over this way, you can see this is Moss Street, and behind the tree line, that's the Planet Fitness at the Northgate Mall. And a lot of people are parked over there. They still do have people out here in the street, but they're nowhere near as close as where they were. Police, though, are waiting patiently to see what happens, hoping that these people clear out. But they do have the Mounted Patrol back on the front line, and they're ready to move in, Jim.
Okay, Chris, yeah, it's a much different scene than what we did see just a few minutes ago. About 5 minutes ago now is when we saw police fire something. We're not exactly sure what it was. There were warnings that there could be tear gas. Chris, I'm not sure if it was irritating what you were around, But again, it was about 5 minutes ago when something was fired, whether it be flares or if it were in fact tear gas. The goal was to clear the streets, and it seems, looking at it 5 minutes on, that it has worked, yet police and deputies are still standing guard in case anything does happen. This is not far away from the Moss Street Police substation. This is the first time today that we've really seen police encounter the protesters. There was a police presence nearby for that protest earlier today, that rally for Trayford Peller and his family. And when the protest got on the move that first time over toward I-49 to block the interstate there, and the Evangeline Thruway, we did see police off in the distance. I know I do have sources who tell me that they were encountered by protesters with things thrown at them, but police were not engaging with the protesters. And then around maybe 8:15 or so, 8:30 tonight is when police did encounter the protesters not far from the Moss Street police substation. They were working to, I guess, surround the substation, really. I did see some reports on social media that someone had lit a fire nearby. It was quickly extinguished, and some leaders in the group were telling the protesters that this was not the way to go about it. In fact, when the protesters were blocking the Evangeline Thruway earlier, hundreds, we did hear Kendria LaFleur reports from Marja Broussard, the local leader with the NAACP, who says that Marja Broussard, was telling the protesters not to block the roadway, that was not the intent. I'm seeing some more action out there right now. Chris, what's going on?
Hey, Jim, so it looks like some of the SWAT team, they're starting to move back. A few are still hanging here, but it does look like they're starting to push back and head back to a staging area. Now, there are a lot of people out here in the parking lot still screaming at the officers and using profanities. The mounted patrol, they're starting to back up as well and push back to Pine and Moss Street. We have seen a few cars leave, but now it appears that there's a few still blocking right here, and a few cars that are still driving up, maybe thinking that the road is open, but this area very much so is closed and shut down here at Pine and Moss Street in Lafayette. And it looks like the SWAT team in their riot gear, they have reformed in the street. Now it looks like this group is Lafayette PD. We did see the sheriff's office out here earlier, and it looks like some sheriff deputies are still here. Mm-hmm. But on the front line is Lafayette PD, and then there's the mounted patrol as well. And state police is out here as well. Mm-hmm. We did see a few blocks down, there's a fire truck going down one of the side roads. And Acadian is out here as well on standby.
And Chris, do you think the intent of this was it to protect the police substation? How far away are you from the substation? Does that seem where police were trying to prevent the protesters from going?
So, Jen, that's the really interesting part. So the deputies, look, Mac, if we can pan right here. So where the mounted patrol and the officers are, this is Moss and Pine Street. Mm-hmm. And if that would be going this way. Not sure if this is north or south. If you're going this way, that would be going towards Willow and the main post office on Moss Street.
Right.
And the actual police substation is down. The police substation, Mac, if we can pan over this way, the police substation is about 2 blocks down this way, okay. Going towards sort of like where Pizza Village is, right, in that area. Now, we have seen that the mounted patrol, they're starting to back up a little bit more. Some of the riot gear officers and deputies, they've backed off as well. But now some of these protesters are starting to move back into the street. We do hear sirens in the distance, and someone's yelling at us to tell the real story, and we are telling the story of what is happening out here. It is a still very tense situation, nowhere near as tense as what it was earlier. And let's see, there's a sheriff deputy vehicle rolling through right here, and you can see some of them in their riot gear in the back of the police truck. But it looks like they are leaving, and the protesters are saying bye. Some of them are waving as they hold their sign that say Black Lives Matter. They were waving.
And they don't seem phased
And
at all, Chris.
There's someone on the megaphone. We're trying to hear what they're saying.
With the threat of arrests, we have seen at least...
Can you repeat that, Jim?
I was going to say they don't seem entirely phased by the threats of arrest. There were at least 3 people arrested, you saw, yeah?
I repeat, the cops have shot.
Yeah, we saw at least 3 people arrested. I'm surprised that police didn't really move in after making those threats and warnings, giving those warnings, telling them to move, that if they didn't leave that they would be arrested. So I'm really surprised that more people weren't arrested in this situation, but that might be a move by police to try and just keep the situation under control as much as possible and in hopes of dispersing the crowd. But it looks like they are trying to reopen part of this road here at Moss and Pine Street in Lafayette. And Mac, if we can pan over this way just a little bit, we can see though that across the street here at the Planet Fitness, there's still a big group of cars and people gathered. It's unclear though how much longer police will stay in the area. It looks like though that they're trying to get this under control, and but Jim, we're going to send it back to you.
Okay, Chris and Mac out there, stay safe for us. We appreciate it. We'll keep the images up just as we're continuing to report what's going on. It was about 12 minutes ago at 8:40 when we did see something fired by Lafayette Police and Sheriff's deputies into the crowd to disperse a crowd of protesters who gathered there on Moss Street, not too far away from the Moss Street substation. Police were on horseback, deputies were in riot gear as the protesters gathered. Many of them stood arm to arm, forming sort of a human wall, and even marched toward police. What I was looking at on social media, Facebook Live, as this all got started, it was remarkable to see just sort of a wall of people protesting and walking toward police a bit farther down the road who, it's an intimidating image to see police on horseback and in riot gear, and these protesters were not fazed. I think it's testament to the emotion and the anger in this city right now over the shooting death of Trayford Pellerin, who was shot and killed last night, just about 24 hours ago, on the Evangeline Thruway near a convenience store. He was 31 years old. This sparked off a lot of controversy because of a video that was shared widely on social media in the immediate aftermath of that shooting. We were trying to get some context to what was going on, and police would only confirm that there was a shooting initially, but we did later find out that police shot a man near a convenience store. They say that Pellerin was armed with a knife, although we should point out that attorneys for the family are disputing that. They're saying there was no knife. So will be interesting to see how this case plays out, because that could be a huge game changer if that is in fact true. But again, police are saying he was armed with a knife. Even a witness who shot that video that was shared online had said he has a knife. Police were moving in to try to arrest him. We're not exactly sure why police were even trying to arrest Pellerin to begin with, but all they would say is they were called to a disturbance at a convenience store, and when Pellerin walked over toward another convenience store is when they were trying to engage him. They say he was armed with a knife and was about to go into a convenience store with people inside, and that's why state police say Lafayette police officers opened fire on Pellerin. He was killed. We found out about his death more than 12 hours later. It wasn't even confirmed until this morning. The protesters all day have been calling for transparency and accountability for the death of Trayford Pellerin. Let's head back out. Chris Welty there. Some more activity as crowds are dispersing and more cars being allowed onto Moss Street. I think Chris is getting his microphone back on for us right now. But we are seeing some more activity. Police did clear the area. I'd say it looks to be successful in that sense, that they got the protesters off. But we do know that at least 3 people were arrested. That was the threat from police, to leave the area or be arrested, no questions asked. And we do know at least 3 people we saw being handcuffed. They also had a van out there, presumably to put some people in if they were in fact arrested. But again, more traffic there, so it appears Moss Street, again, we're right near the intersection of Moss and Pine right now, and we are seeing traffic for the first time in a few minutes, so it does appear that that the roadway is back open. We do see the flash of police lights and some police cruisers in the area, so we know that they are still maintaining a presence out there. A little bit farther down Moss Street, that appears, where we are seeing more police, but no sign of mounted police nor police in riot gear. Chris, are you still there? Can you hear me? All right, I think Chris is still working to get his microphone back up and running. We've been reporting on this for a few minutes, so batteries die, things happen. But again, that's Chris Welty and his photojournalist Mac out there providing these images for us, and I think Chris is ready to go. Chris, have the protesters
Hey, we can hear you.
Have the protesters cleared the area? It seems traffic is back open.
Yeah, Jim, a lot of people have cleared this area now. We're still working to confirm, but we've heard that there's a grass fire on the thruway. That might explain why we did see a fire truck going down one of the side roads, and why the police in their riot gear have left. They might be going over to that area, so we are working to try and get some more information, but a lot of the people have since left. We did see state police, the sheriff's office roll out, and we did see that about a block down where that police substation is, we did see some of the units disperse from that substation and heading down to the thruway. So it does appear that this road, for the most part, has reopened. Part of it is still blocked about maybe 2 blocks down past Moss and Pine Street going back towards Willow. But police are still working to reopen this road. And we can hear whenever the cars are driving right here, they're running over glass and canisters. There's a lot of trash that has been left behind in the streets here on Moss and Pine, right by the Northgate Mall. But a lot of the people are starting to disperse. We see that Lafayette PD, they're rolling one of their units forward a little bit. But a lot of the cars, though, it looks like they are dispersing and going over to the thruway. And we do see another fire truck, Jim. Another fire truck is working its way to go back down to the thruway near Willow.
The thruway near Willow, that's where we're hearing about a grass fire, Chris?
Yeah, Jim, that's what we're hearing, that there was possibly a grass fire over there, and that might explain why the police in their riot gear, that they have all dispersed. And we've seen a lot of the units turning around and going towards that direction. So we're going to try and work to get some more details and bring you the very latest.
Okay, yeah, I know I've just got word that Kendria LaFleur is making her way over there to try to see what's going on. Again, it's about 9 o'clock right now. It was 8:40 tonight when we saw them fire something toward a group of protesters that were linking arms there on Moss Street, and police had given them about a 15-minute warning to disperse. And then it was about 10 minutes after that they were told they could be faced with some tear gas. We're not exactly sure what was fired toward the protesters. We do know that at least 3 people were arrested by the authorities that we did see on scene there. So again, this is all these protests that are happening today in Lafayette in response to the shooting death of Trayford Pellerin by Lafayette Police last night. So much emotion in this city right now. People want accountability. They want transparency in the investigation. State police are now investigating this case. We know that the officers who were involved have been placed on administrative leave. We did reach out to LCG wanting to know how many officers there were, because in that video that was shared on social media, there was a group of officers that was trying to apprehend Pellerin at the time of the shooting. We reached out to LCG wanting to know how many police officers were placed on leave in connection with this case. They could not tell us that, citing the pending investigation. However, we do know that within the past 24 hours, 3 Lafayette police officers have been placed on administrative leave, so presumably those are the officers involved in this case. We will have continuing coverage, everybody, throughout the night as this continues to unfold. Again, these ongoing protests in the wake of Trayford Pellerin. Earlier today, the Evangeline Thruway, as it turns into I-49, was blocked off because of the protests. There were hundreds of people out there shouting and chanting. They want to make their voices heard and known over the death of Trayford Pellerin. They are upset They want that to be known. They made a statement there. Although we should point out as well, we did hear from the NAACP. They weren't exactly condoning what was happening over on the Evangeline Thruway. They wanted their voices to be heard, but in a more peaceful way, in a more productive way. I think they were a little disappointed in what was going on at the Thruway. But again, then the protests did disperse and head over toward that Moss Street substation, where we saw a dramatic scene, a face-off, really a face-off between protesters and police, and that ended with police and deputies firing something toward the crowd and dispersing the crowd. About 10 minutes after whatever it was that was fired, the crowds did disperse in Moss Street. It was apparently reopened. Now we are hearing reports again about a grass fire that's underway right now on the Thruway near Willow. We have crews headed there, and we'll bring you coverage as soon as we have more information to report there. For now, I'm Jim Hummel, KETC TV3.